I'm Jeff Oliverio, and let's queer up entertainment. Conservative group urges the Trump administration to target LGBTQ plus kids content in Netflix merger review. A conservative Christian group is urging the Trump administration to scrutinize LGBTQ plus representation in Netflix's children's programming as the streamer seeks approval for its massive merger with Warner Bros. Discovery. Concerned Women for America released a report this month examining queer themes in Netflix kids content. CEO and President Penny Nance accused the platform of pushing an anti-child, anti-family agenda, claiming children's shows have been infiltrated by adult preoccupations with sexual preferences and gender identity. Our new report reveals that children's programming is not exempt from identity politics, a drastic departure from its historic role. These are shocking numbers, and most parents are unaware, end quote. Netflix recently announced a fully financed deal to acquire Warner Bros. Discovery, valuing the company at $82.7 billion. The merger has already sparked backlash from lawmakers and labor groups. Nance is now calling on regulators to intervene. She said, quote, "The government should make that part of the conversation of this merger. There should be an outside, independent counsel that represents the interests of parents reviewing program ratings." Wow, a lot to unpack there. Obviously, this is a story about, again, the conservatives who are the party of freedom, favoring censorship. They're afraid of anything that doesn't agree with their agenda, and it is not what this country is based on. The second thing is, the government getting involved in business deals, and putting their thumb on the scale. Obviously, we do have regulations around mergers, but this is, of course, as with everything, Trump really putting himself out there to, put his finger on the scale for this deal, not specifically for this story, but, in reference to things like 60 Minutes, and how they're criticizing him, and should he be favoring Paramount over Netflix, and who gives him better coverage. So again, this is not about freedom at all. It's about a lot of heavy-handed government intervention in both business and culture wars.
Yeah. Well, the Netflix merger is trying to create a monopoly. Under a normal government, you wouldn't see this sort of attempted merger, but they think Trump's administration is so laissez-faire, they'll let it go through. But the thing is, you have two things going on here. You have one, should the government do the merger or not do the merger, and how should the government nitpick the merger, this stuff. The other thing is the false narrative that Netflix does a lot of LGBTQ content, because they used to. They used to do a lot of great LGBTQ content when it was first a streaming service. But people on there, they've been criticizing it, what was that new show they just did? Boots. It didn't get renewed. And the rumor is because the second season would be a little bit more like the hockey players that touch each other too much. What's it called? Heated rivalry. It would be a lot more touchy, the stuff we all want to watch. But Netflix didn't want to go that gay. Wow. And you've seen this happen again and again, where Netflix has been more and more removing, but Netflix has been not doing anywhere near as much queer content as they used to.
But the thing is, though, and this is the thing, the administration don't want this deal. The administration is actually opposing this deal.
But is it because they want the Paramount? That's still a huge merger, Bob.
I mean, I'm not saying that it's not a huge merger. I'm saying that Netflix's deal came out of nowhere and blindsided the administration, and now the Paramount is scrambling to basically try to convince the shareholders that they'll pay more for their shares. But the bottom line is, the thumb on the scale is on the Paramount side, and also the fact that this whole TV show, children's TV show thing, that would not have happened if the conservatives hasn't chased children's TV show off PBS, off network TV. There were safeguards in place back in the day for NPR to air Sesame Street to make sure the topics are appropriate for children. And then there's network TV. Of course, they certainly are not going to have to discuss sexuality at 9 o'clock for Saturday morning cartoons. But the conservatives has stripped away funding for public broadcasting children's programs. So where do they run? They run to people who can pay them, and who can pay them on Netflix and HBO.
So, Bobby, the reason they don't want to talk about Sesame Street is Sesame Street was originally designed to be a multiracial urban TV show. It's literally, they were like, oh, it's never been identity politics in children's shows. No, they originally were designed to show diversity.
To complement what you're saying there, Alex, I look back, I recently saw a post that in the 1960s, Charles Schulz posted for the first time a black character, Franklin. He was one of the kids. And there was a lot of backlash on that. And Charles Schulz basically said, I will quit the comic strip if this doesn't go forward. And we have to be strong during these times. I think also it's interesting that Netflix is about to emerge in building a major studio. They bought Port Monmouth, which is a former Army base in New Jersey, which is big, right near Asbury Park, which is a very gay city. And to think that, you know, they may buckle under political pressure, I encourage certainly Netflix to be strong through this. It's called evolution. You know, going back to the example of a black character in a comic strip and the Peanuts to coming to today. Kids need something to relate to, no matter how they...
But like, the one thing I will say on this, like, regardless of if Paramount or Netflix buys Warner Brothers, your streaming is going to get more expensive and it's going to be less diverse.
You know, I agree with, you know, the merger has some negatives, but I will say, and again, obviously, I think companies have to do what they have to do under the current administration, but at the end of the day, these companies cannot survive without eyeballs. So if they don't put compelling things on that a lot of people are going to watch, I mean, Heated Rivalry is probably the most talked about HBO show, even though it's, you know, not even from HBO. It's not from their
Canada.
Yeah. But again, for the LGBT community, probably since like Sex and the City, you know, it has so much. And so those buzz things only happen if you're going to put on milquetoast, middle of the road programming, you're not going to get eyeballs. So, you know, what they're doing under the current administration, I don't know that that'll be their long-term strategy, because that is not a long-term strategy. You know, that content is people are going to say, oh, well, if you can't put it on Netflix, we're going to produce it for YouTube. And then people are going to, you know, so they have to get eyeballs. And the more this merger, the bigger they are, the more they're going to need to cater to a wider audience to grow the brand.
The administration's goal is essentially they don't want basically Warner Brothers movie studio or anything like that, or Discovery Network. They want CNN. They want
I don't believe that.
No, White House particularly hates CNN.
Oh, you mean the White House?
Oh, the White.
Yes, and therefore they want Paramount to take it over because of the Ellison father and son team, just like they took over CBS, and now Barry Weiss is running CBS News with a decidedly conservative bent, or else you wouldn't have Erica Kirk on CBS News. He wanted to destroy CNN by turning into Fox News 2. That's what it is. This is a very expensive revenge plot.
True. I mean, I think there is that, but what I was saying.
But monopoly is also the other thing too.
But I mean, again, Netflix has a very vested interest. Their most popular content is Warner Brothers Studios content. So by them owning it, as opposed to leasing it or they're coming out ahead right away. So
and the investors in Netflix and the other studios were talking about, like you said, Jeff, you know, it's in their best interest for the company to be successful. So even if they're red or right wing, they're going to want their investments to be successful.
I'm about to say red in business means something a little different, but like, now I hear that there's also the owning of all the content. That's what they're trying to see. One company's trying to like rule them all, sort of thing. Like one company would love to own all the content, and that's like the big problem right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, we can't have Disney owning everything. So.
To be determined. So there is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by sharing them and subscribing to Queer News Tonight.